thing with a paint sprayer. I love paint sprayers. I'll talk about that. But I did miss a little spot here. Most of this is going to be cabinets, so we'll have some visible counter here, and then we'll have the fridge right here. But there's a little spot right here between the trim and the top of the cabinets that's going to be visible, and I forgot to paint that. So I'm going over with a little hand roller here. Just putting a coat of primer on. Got same thing as the paint for everything else. I did 2 coats of primer and then 2 coats of paint. And so I'm just getting the second coat of primer on here, and then I'll put a couple coats of paint and we'll be good to go. Using primer is very important, especially with drywall, because paint will not adhere to unfinished drywall. So you definitely want to get a couple coats of primer on there. Even if it says it's paint plus primer, which the paint I'm using is a paint plus primer, but it doesn't work. You still want to use primer. So here we got our paint sprayer. You can see I've put some use in it over the years. Paint sprayers, I think, are just really cool, especially for new construction. All you need to do is just cover up your doors and windows. I use some spare plywood. We can show you guys that. And, you know, you can just hit everything really quickly. I can do a whole coat of paint in the tiny house in about 10 minutes. So I did 2 coats of paints, 2 coats of primer. That's 40 minutes of painting. And that's really nice. So I want to show you a little bit about how it works. It looks pretty complex, but it's very simple. Basically, you have 2 lines here. One, you can see it has a filter on the end. That goes inside your bucket of paint. So you just toss it in there, and when you hit the pump, it'll suck it through. And you want to wait until it comes out into your drain hose here. So basically, all you're doing, when we turn this on, it's going to pull the paint up through here, and it's going to come out here. So this valve will be down, and you can see when it's down, it goes into this hose. You can see if this was in the down position, I can't put it in down position because it's holding pump fluid right now. But you put this valve in the down position and that'll pump it through our drain hose. Once it's pumped through, it's primed, and you'll switch that up like it is, and then you can see the paint will be directed through our hose to our sprayer. So this little spray tip, you can see it's got a tiny little hole in there, and that's what ends up spraying the paint out. They have different spray tips, and you want to check with the paint. I asked the guy when I bought the paint what spray tip he suggested. He said a .017 to .021, so I got right in the middle. There's a 519, which is a .019. So I got a 519 spray tip, and it worked really well. And you just pull the trigger. It puts out a nice little band. This is a 5, so it puts out a 5-inch band of spray, and you can just go to town. And you just want to keep the spray tip always perfectly perpendicular. You don't want to spray like this. You want to spray like this, really keeping it straight to the wall. And just make a nice pattern where you're hitting everything, and it's really easy. Once you're done, you don't want to just, first you can use water, and you just run water through the whole system. And then you can use this stuff called Pump Armor, and you actually pump that stuff up, and you can see it in here. You can see a little bit of a blue tint because water has contaminants in it. It can evaporate, and you want to leave this Pump Armor in the system until the next time you use it. So I had some scrap piece of plywood from when we cut the windows out of our sheathing, and I just screwed them together so that they got a nice tight fit inside each window, and just shoved them up in there. You can see sometimes the nozzle gets clogged, so you can see how I kind of sprayed out some spray on here, but works really well. You can see there's no paint on the windows, and did a nice clean job. You can see this turned out really well. This is where I had to bump out for the plumbing, and just finished off really well. Get a nice little diagonal here. We will have a couch right here, so this will kind of, we might even put like a nice piece of wood here and make a cup holder area out of this. So worked out pretty cool, pretty good. So you can see we have some areas that aren't painted. We've got visible drywall tape. We've got visible drywall mud that wasn't sanded, but none of that matters. This is all going to be right here is where the refrigerator goes. So all of this is just going to be hidden. Also right here, we have countertops And here we have cabinets above. So a lot of areas that I saved paint, didn't have to use paint on because they'll be covered up. So using some 1/4 inch thick tongue and groove cedar. Cedar has a really nice smell to it, and it stands up to moisture really well. 1/4 is really tough to work with, though. You can see just it's so thin that it's kind of flimsy. Luckily, there's no weight going from the ceiling. Maybe just a tiny bit of push from the insulation, but you know, it's a good balance between price and you know, quality. So you can see how they just match together, and they get a pretty tight hold on them there. So you don't have to nail down every single piece on a stud, because once the next one's in, as long as you stagger the joints, they'll kind of all lock together. So you can see a little gap right here, and that has to be caulked because this is a place where air can come in. On the outside, we do have sheathing going through it. If you remember, we didn't break the sheathing on the bottom plate. We broke it on the sill plate, which is all the way down at the bottom of the trailer, below our subfloor. So this is air sealed, but just as a belt and suspenders, we're gonna air seal it on this side too. Just gonna take a bead of caulk. We got a nice air seal there. So when we were doing the plumbing, I had planned for a certain shower pan and a shower enclosure in here. And when I went to buy it, they had discontinued it. So I had to go for a different shower pan and enclosure. And wouldn't you know it, the placement of the drain is a little different. So just having to redo the drain here, had to cut open a hole, and we're just gonna repipe the drain so that it fits out right through the center of our shower pan. Frustrating, but you know, probably should have bought the shower pan a little earlier. It's just, I don't have a lot of place to store things, so it's all right. We'll fix it up and be on our way.